Welcome back to Market It with ATMA, where we share the tips, tools, and strategies to help your business be successful. Today, we're talking about one of the most underrated but most powerful topics I've had on the show, personality profiling. We have on the show today Mr. Dan Dalton, owner of P314 Consulting. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, Story. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So I love what you do, because in this day and age of AI right now, people are kind of losing who they are. Would you say?
I think so. I think that there's a lot of lack of self-awareness that is happening with folks, especially with young people that are kind of growing up without the opportunity to learn from a failure, or just having so many things handed to them or told what they need to do.
Absolutely.
I think that there's a loss of learning how to critically think or make decisions.
Definitely. I know in the olden days, as my kids would say, we had our parents to look up to really kind of mold our personalities. And some people don't have that luxury. So it's really hard to not look at everyone else and say, okay, I'm just going to take yours and be a part of you and be a part of me. But you do have a personality that develops, and this is how you help people. So in my opinion, this is the most important thing you can have in a business or in a college in general. They should really take hold of what you do. Can you walk us through what P314 Consulting is?
Right. P314 Consulting is basically an organization that is designed for people to raise their level of self-awareness.
Okay.
There's two populations that I look to reach out to: those medium to small-sized businesses, and especially startups, or young people between the ages of 15 and 22. The idea being is that self-awareness is the root of self-improvement. A lot of times we don't know really how we're wired. We don't stop and understand how we take in information, how we
are perceived to other people.
Exactly. How we give out information, how we make decisions. How do we go about recharging our batteries when it's time to just sort of reset on that.
Right.
It's different with everybody, and understanding where you are as a person, what your personality strengths are. And it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just the preferences that we lead with in different types of personality aspects.
Okay, that is something that I think everyone needs personally. But can you tell us a little bit of your background and why you started P314 Consulting? What were you seeing?
I have been, for the last 30 years, have been a human resources professional in several different industries: in banking, in healthcare, high-end retailing, and in manufacturing. So for the last 30 years, I've had the opportunity of primarily being focused on employee development, process, and performance improvement. And some of the tools that I learned to use were various tools throughout the years, but had to do with understanding how people learn, adult learning, personality profiles, how people take in information, what is important to them, how they process information. So tools like Myers-Briggs type indicator,
Right.
Wiley DISC, everything DISC, Insights Discovery, and John Maxwell has a tool called John Maxwell's DISC. All of these are tools that help people understand just exactly what their personality makeup is. Are they direct? Do they process and need information or data, or do they make decisions more on what feels right in their gut, or what is the best impact for the most number of people? All of these are aspects of personality that drive the way people respond to the various stimuli that comes their way in everyday life.
Okay.
And I think if you understand how you're wired, then the first thing is it improves the quality of communication that you have with those around you.
Okay.
You know how you like to take in information. You can help people understand what information you need and at what level. But at the same time, you can always flex to how they take in information, which improves your communication to them.
Okay, that's a great point. So to that point, that seems like it could really affect a business owner in the hiring process and how you lead, how you work. Why do you primarily focus on small to medium-sized businesses?
A couple of reasons why my organization focuses on that. First of all, it's only me. So
Right.
I'm not quite geared up enough to handle a large population of potential trainees. Secondly, I'd like to really coach and teach that the basis of personality profiling and what you learn at that level of communication needs to be integrated into all processes, policies, procedures, and even the performance evaluation process, even down to how you set up agendas for one-on-ones or staff meetings. It's a lot easier to get that integrated into the fiber of operation of a smaller organization than it would be a multinational or much larger.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how does personality profiling help business owners put the right people in the right roles? Does it create better alignment?
It does. It does. If you think about it, a job description can be assessed on the different tasks that the job description is saying are the deliverables for that role.
Right.
Each task may actually have an aspect of personality profiling or strengths. So, for instance, if I look at a job description for something that is very detail-oriented, and the deliverables are the precision in reports or accuracy in numbers, then I know that the personality that is most apt to be successful in that role is going to be someone who can focus and feels comfortable in detail and information. Well, there might be, let's say, take your job description as a marketing professional.
Right.
Your job description calls for being outgoing, to being flexible in communication situations, to be creative. Different side of the brain is used.
All the time, right.
Okay. So what we can do through this personality profiling is take a look at the job description and come up with an approximation of a personality profile that would most likely be successful in that role.
Okay.
Now, it's not an exact science, and it's certainly not something that you could use from a legal standpoint in recruiting.
Okay.
But it is information that could make you as a hiring manager make a better decision on the people that you're bringing in to fill a particular role.
That is pivotal. That would seem like the highest priority to me, especially in a small business. When you have 3 to 5 employees or even 10, that intimate relationship is bound to happen. And it seems like if you're delivering or receiving information wrong, it can maybe cripple a company, would you say?
True. And not to mention that, for instance, my personality type, in the DISC profile, I lead with the I, which is that involvement that my personality is that I like to be included and involved. I also have a lot of energy that gears toward impacting as many people for the good as possible.
Right.
One of my lowest personality traits is precision, detail, and data.
Okay.
I understand the importance of the precision of the numbers.
Okay.
So when I'm having to do an aspect of my job that deals with precision of numbers, I can do it, but it drains me. It really zaps my energy.
Okay.
Whereas asking me to, hey, Dan, would you facilitate a workshop where we can just get some discussion going around some issues within our organization, that's right in my wheelhouse from a personality standpoint. So that's energizing to me. I get excited about that. I can lead a workshop and it charges my battery, so to speak. And I'm ready to go play a round of golf after a workshop. I'm
that's
energized by that.
amazing. For you to understand that, it gives you the availability that if you are put in that first situation, you understand that you need to recharge after, correct?
Absolutely. And how do I recharge? Most personality profiling tools, and there are many, and I'm not necessarily promoting one over another. I use 2 or 3 myself, but there are numerous tools. But most of them are going to start with, are you introverted or extroverted?
Right.
Okay. Now, there's a traditional understanding of those terms when somebody hears those terms.
Very much
they
so.
think of the introvert as the wallflower and the extrovert as the guy with the lampshade on his head at a party,
Yes.
And that's not necessarily the definition that we're going for here. What an introvert is, from a personality profiling tool, is someone who recharges their battery by seclusion, by finding their favorite spot, curling up with their favorite book, being alone, their music, cup of tea, whatever it is that is intimate to them. The extrovert calls their friends together and goes to the ball game, or goes out and has dinner with their friends, or just has people over because they get their energy from inclusion and other people. The other side of the story is, how do you make decisions? Do you make decisions where you need time and information? That's going to be more of the sensing side. Or do you make decisions based on personal experience and the beneficial impact to as many people as possible? That's the feeling side. Okay. So when we have these two it basically makes quadrants.
Right.
Okay? So the extrovert, who is, a driven person who likes information, is going to be what we like to call the D, or the fiery red personality. And their mantra might be brief, be bright, and be gone.
Oh,
Okay?
I love that.
Tell me what you came to tell me, and then leave, because I've got
Right.
a process. Okay. The I, or the sunshine yellow, and I'm using terms from a couple of the tools that I use.
Right.
These are the involved people. They're the extroverts, but they're going to primarily make decisions more on what's it feel like right in my gut. What is the impact, for a positive impact for as many people as possible.
Okay.
Then you get down to the introverted side. The introverted side, who is the feeler, is the one who is focused on social justice. Show me that you care, is their mantra. Okay? The introverted detail person is the C, or the cool blue, and it's give me the information, give me time, give me data. Okay? So for somebody with my energy, who is in support of somebody who is a C, or a cool blue, I've got to make sure that I gather the information and then give them time. Okay? What I ask from them is to, every so often, just help me know that I'm okay, that I'm on the right track, and that my involvement is headed in a way that is good for the organization.
Wow. So to that point, there's a couple of things I wanted to point out. I've done what I would say are personality profiles. I've submitted tests. You'll be on social media and submit those. You're not going in and having everybody write down their thoughts and feelings. I know, as a female, especially in a very fast-paced business with a lot of personalities, my mood changes. How the wind blows changes my mood. So when I fill out a test or information, I notice that I fill it out one day, I'm a different personality than I am a week later and fill out a test on personality profiling. So can you walk us through how you work with businesses at inception when it comes to the hiring process, or as a team development and understanding? You're not just giving them tests. Can you walk us through how you approach that customer journey?
Right. Well, to start with, the the personality profile tools, regardless of which ones you use, are going to start probably with a questionnaire, some as short as just 3 minutes.
And sorry to interrupt you again, but I wanted to say, I feel like your history and your background in not dealing with people, but figuring out how to communicate with people really has an effect on all of the different options you choose to use in your business. And that's what differentiates you from just having a DISC assessment or one or the other. Is that right on?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, all of us have work histories that help shape how we have utilized our personality profiles to be successful in our given roles.
So you are making it to where we're learning more on the proactive end rather than the reactive end, learning from your mistakes.
Exactly. And one of the things that P314 does is we try to teach this as fundamentals that you could use in the enhancement of the process, communication, and decision making of you as an individual and you as an organization.
Oh, okay. See, that helps clarify a lot for me. So I'd like to go back and ask how you walk through approaching a business and what you do and the different steps you take. And then also your other focal point, which is helping young adults understand where they're going. Can you walk us through the team development first?
Sure. So with an organization, if we were to come in, we would first ask, we would ask 3 basic questions. What's working? Where you're getting stuck, and what do you need to do differently? This is a concept that I learned from Alan Fine, who wrote a book called You Already Know How to Be Great.
Okay.
And it's a feedback loop that it can be very fundamental, just 3 questions. You could use this not only to give feedback, but seek information to do that first level of discovery. You could even use it as meeting formats for agendas.
Interesting.
Here's the 3 categories, and then fill in the detailed bullet points underneath that. So we want to find out, okay, where are you now?
Okay, and you're talking about from a CEO, a C-suite perspective. Right. You're going to ask the C-suite person that's come to you that pretty much manages everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to ask them these questions. Right.
Because what I'm wanting to find out is where do they see the potential breakdown or areas of development? Because you can look at any organization and it's kind of based on the same questions, is what do we want to keep doing? What's working? Okay. And with the where are we getting stuck? Do we need to fix it, update it, or replace it?
Okay, so those are the 3 main points that they really...
Yeah. And then lastly is what do we need to do differently? Are there wholesale changes that are necessary, or is it just some adjusting?
Okay.
So with that in the case, then we first have to learn, okay, we're going to need to communicate with everybody because the possibility that our next step is some kind of process change. And if you don't know how to help people understand how they take in information to make decisions, then how are you going to present the process change to them in a way that they can process it?
Wow.
Okay. If you have a bunch of people with the personality types like you and I have, that outgoing, the extroverted, feeling type information, and you just throw us a bunch of spreadsheets that show the statistical analysis of why this change is necessary, that's not going to be the best way for us to process to make that decision. But if you come to us and say this change is necessary because here's the impact for you, here's the impact of what it does to your position and the task that we're asking of you, this is the impact to our staff, this is the impact to our clients.
And your bottom line at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, ultimately the bottom line.
Okay.
So then we do the personality profiling tools, help everyone understand theirs first.
Okay, so you kind of, what I would say is after you have established with C-suite those variables, if there's an issue, if there's not, where are you, right?
Exactly.
You take that information. Do you then bring the whole team together for them to understand their personality, or hold a workshop? How does that work?
It really can be done a couple different ways. We can make it fun, because if I lead a workshop, you're going to learn some stuff. You're going to be exposed to some, and you're going to laugh. You're going to have a good time. I'm not a lecturer. I'm more of a corporate training entertainer.
Right, because when I have somebody that walks in and tells me, I'm going to tell you what you may be doing wrong or right, and how you may or may not be delivering to people, it's a little intimidating. So the softness you bring to these workshops, I think, really helps.
Yeah, it's discussion based. Somebody asked me one time, how do you describe your training style? And I say, well, I'm kind of like that soccer coach that throws a ball out there, we'll kick it around, and if somebody kicks it in the street, we'll just throw another soccer ball out there. We'll go get the other one later. I want discussion, because discussion, regardless of what personality type, when we have discussion at that kind of almost superficial level, that's the beginning of self-discovery.
Breaking the ice.
Right, because we can then start pulling out the pieces that mean things to us. The detail-oriented people will start pulling out nuggets of data. The socially oriented people are going to be pulling out nuggets of influence and involvement and impact. Okay? So once we understand what each individual's is, then we say, okay, now with this knowledge, we're going to teach you how to understand and be able to pick up on the types of others, so that you can flex and be a better communicator with them. I'll give you a couple of case in points. I have a former boss who was very much like me. In fact, she was a redhead too.
Nice.
But
scary though, right?
I know, two redheads leading HR. She was very much a influencer, involvement, social justice, what's best for the masses kind of people. But she was in support of very technically oriented executives. Now, on her early profiles, it very much showed her involvement, that I or sunshine yellow and that S or earth green type of energy that she led with. Later on, we did the assessment again, and I began to see shadings in the C or cool blue, which is the detail.
Interesting.
And basically, she learned to flex toward the detail needed to support these engineers.
Based on the
Based
result?
on just experience and the information that she had to convey as the leader of HR to people who process things by detail. Okay. Now, it's not her base energy. It's not what she naturally leads with from a personality standpoint, but it is a learned behavior to be more effective in her role. And it began to show up in her later personality profiles as a tendency to be able to be comfortable in that detail-oriented space. Not her lead, but she was able to come. I understand the detail is important.
Right.
My job before HR was in consumer banking.
Ooh, very detail-oriented.
Very detail-oriented. In fact, I had my 7th grade math teacher met me at a wedding some 15 years after graduation, and she looked at me and says, I refuse to believe you're employed in a mathematics-related field.
She saw that in you.
She did, yeah. But at the same time, I understand the importance of it. But I was building a banking career based on relationships. My understanding of the detail was a necessary evil for me to be successful in operations. But the success of my business was based on the fact that I built relationships with my customers.
Wow. So that's a great point. So we kind of develop our personalities and our styles of how we do things through experience, through different jobs, different positions, different things to try, right? So when you meet with the C-suite and then you understand what their team and how they receive and give information, what is the next step? You're not trying to change the way people think, process, or behave. What are you trying to do as the next step?
Well, the next step is understanding that the fundamentals of leadership and management is nothing more than being the steward of a 360-degree array of relationships.
I love that.
Okay. To be a good steward of relationships, that means you have to shepherd into each relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be the owner of that relationship. Now, there's ownership coming from the other side too, and hopefully they're looking at the same need to pay into the relationship.
Right.
So without saying that CEO who really lives in the detail or really lives in that sense of urgency.
Yeah, they're juggling things all the time.
They need to be able to flex toward the communication style for those people who are more of the feelers and more of the people that are geared to the other side of the personality complex. They need to slow down when they're talking to their marketers.
Ooh.
Okay. They understand that, time is money and urgency is necessary, and that is definitely something they need to convey to their marketers. But they need to slow down and be able to convey to the marketers what their mindset is saying that they want to convey to their customers.
Wow. Okay, so that was a lot to think about in just one moment. It really, really matters on the delivery. So once you establish how they're delivering information and receiving information, you see what's working and what's not in terms of work relationships.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what is necessary, and not that all work relationships are broken,
Right?
but all relationships are dynamic.
Absolutely.
And what do we need to do to move our relationship forward? Because as our relationship moves forward, it gets deeper, and as it gets deeper, there's more quality outcome. And ultimately, the quality outcome of better relationships in the workplace shows up in profitability.
Absolutely. And I think throughout time, I mean, it's been very controversial as to men working in a female-dominated workplace and vice versa, females working in male-dominated workplaces as being contentious. It has that view.
Exactly. And you asked me about my experience and how that's paying into this. A lot of people don't realize it, but retail banking is a predominantly female business.
Interesting.
High-end fashion and retailing, predominantly female business.
Mm-hmm.
Human resources as an industry is a predominantly female industry. I had a tough time breaking into human resources in the early 90s because most people's idea of a recruiter is not 6'3", 250 pounds.
Right. It's slightly intimidating.
Yeah. So, I actually had a person that you're just not what I see standing next to the table at a job fair.
Interesting.
Okay. I had to show my value to contributing to the successful recruitment of the organization and strategic planning of staffing before I was actually allowed into the little sorority.
Wow. And had you the sorority, and I love it, had you understood that you needed to make those changes ahead of time when you were onboarding or when you were first going into your very first corporate position, would it have changed the dynamic of your work and home life, that balance, and your dynamic with different job positions? Would you have stayed in positions longer? Would you have moved on? Does it make you question those things?
I'm not sure it makes me question it much things. I think it makes me look back and say, boy, if I had known then what I know now, I might not have had to clear some hurdles. But
that's why you started.
As my life verse says, I push back and push forward to what I'm called to by forgetting what's behind. And my mindset has always been, and that's the name of my company is P314, which is Philippians 3:14. My life verse is Philippians 3:12 through 14.
Okay.
Where basically Paul says, I've not already obtained it, but what I am doing is I'm striving forward toward it. I forget what's behind and move forward to that to which I've been called through Christ Jesus. That's the Dan Dalton paraphrase. Okay.
I love it.
And what I mean by that is that I learn from the setbacks. Take those setbacks long enough to learn what I need to do differently. That third question of the triad. What's working? Where am I getting stuck? What do I need to do differently?
Yeah.
Strive forward because we're all a work in process.
Absolutely.
I think in the lifespan of an organization, it's never done. It's always dynamic.
Absolutely. In any business, you have, the ATMA view, build, launch, grow, scale methodology. In early stages of business, communication breakdowns can stall that growth phase of your business. You can stall out. Would you agree?
Agreed. I've had to coach a lot of managers in my career that their idea of accelerated coaching or continued development is just give it to them louder and dirtier.
I know a lot of managers in every industry that's how we were taught, some people, right? And with your background in history, you're leaning into what you know how to do, and that's relationships, it seems like.
Exactly. I firmly believe that we're all stewards of relationships, not just in the workplace, but in our personal lives as well. And the same concepts that we teach in the workplace can transition into our real lives. Thus, the focus that I have on young people, the kind of the other half of my business, is wanting to focus on helping individuals that are 15 to 22 years of age kind of get ready for those adult decisions that are coming at them at 100 miles an hour.
Man, there's so many adult decisions. You're referencing their view on stepping away from their parents and into the world.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And I was actually going to ask about that. We're seasoned professionals. We could go to different industries and get hired. But for these young adults that are trying to figure out where they want to go, how does understanding what you do and how does what you do help them in their life journey?
Well, let me start by going back a little bit, just sort of kind of a before and after picture.
Yes.
When you and I were growing up, we went to school, and somewhere in high school, they handed us, Beowulf, or they handed us the Iliad or the Canterbury Tales and said, here, read this book, and in 3 weeks you have to write a report on it. Okay. And what did we do? We went home, and if we were diligent to our studies, we read the book.
Right.
Or those of us who cut corners, we might have gotten things called Cliff Notes.
I remember
summaries
those.
of books, And at the end of the day, we sat down at a typewriter and banged out keystroke by keystroke a paper on that book. Okay. What's done today?
Not that.
Hey, chat.
AI.
Yeah, give me the summary of the Iliad.
Right.
And what I have found, and this is kind of what my research has done, is we have a lot of folks, young people, that are reaching the end of the stage in high school and going, okay, now what?
Right. Peer orientation is such a big thing now. How do they know where to go when their peers aren't around?
Exactly. Or they collect a batch of 10-second sound bites and think they're informed. Or they've read a 2-page summary and they've got 15 bullet points that think that they understand that book. And consequently, they even have AI help them write the papers. Okay, so it's not necessarily a quality-quantity of life experience, but I do think that the immediacy that young people take in information now, it doesn't have that opportunity to just sort of get into their soul and percolate.
Absolutely.
And become a founding value that is of substance. I was working with somebody not long ago, and they said, boy, Dan, you really got a lot of wisdom. I said, no, I don't. I've got a lot of experience. A lot of what I've learned is through making mistakes. And I tell them, I said, a lot of what I've learned is stepping in stuff and having to clean my boots. So
we've all been there, right? That's so interesting. So you're focusing on these young adults. How are you approaching them in their journey? Because to your point, It's an AI-driven world. It's a digital world. We want everything right now, right here. And most of the time we can get that, right? The younger, especially a younger generation coming up with AI. So why is it so important that they understand their personality? Because I think a lot of young adults think they know who they are, but when you step into a corporate environment or try to figure out which environment you want to navigate to, they realize they don't really know what they want or where they're going. So how do you walk us through that customer journey when it comes to a young adult?
Well, some of the tools that I use gear toward, and let me back up just a little bit more. Personality is set in most people somewhere in our mid-teens.
Interesting.
Okay. The rest of our social makeup, our emotional intelligence, and our intellectual intelligence doesn't really peak until much later in life.
Okay.
And sorry, guys, for us, it's not even then. Yeah.
You can take what you can.
Exactly. But personality profiles are pretty much set as to how we prefer to respond. Now, as we said before, it does change and evolve over time, but it's still going to be the primary focuses of the initial response to stimulus at about 15 years of age. The same algorithms that help us with the personality profiling tools can also help show what career areas we would be most apt to be successful in.
Wow.
So the same kind of assessment that I would put a job description through to tell a hiring manager, say, you really want to look for somebody with these attributes, can tell a 17-year-old, here is where your personality is geared to thrive.
Oh, wow.
And so if you are of a certain type of personality or leaning toward dominance in a certain area, then you might not necessarily be apt to be successful in a career field that draws on the opposite side of personality.
That's a great point. So you're telling me that my dad's extroverted, dominant energy and his position he looked for may not be right for me. Is how some people can view this, which in turn, if you're like maybe a family member of mine, you go to college thinking you want to be one thing your whole life, right? And then you realize very quickly through interaction and understanding that you don't want to be in that career anymore after your parents have paid a hefty tuition.
Exactly. And that's one of the value propositions that I bring to a family. That, in fact, I've done some work with some young people. There's one family that I can recall the 15-year-old daughter, very much an involved, oriented person. I've known this child since she was a baby.
Oh.
And she is focused on involvement. She is a member of one of the athletic teams in her school. She is a member of the choir. She is a leader of just social groups. She is involved, and her personality type just pointed that out. Her dad, on the other side, is very detail oriented, very focused. And I don't mean to cast aspersions on it or anything, but the way that I describe some of the people who lead with that C or cool blue energy is life only has meaning if I can put it in Excel. Okay.
You know what? And that's not a bad thing sometimes.
It's not, because thank goodness for the people who focus on the detail.
Yes.
To that 6th and 7th decimal point, because you want that in your surgeon, right?
Absolutely. If you're performing surgery on my brain or anything, I want you to be that person.
So I was debriefing with this young lady and helping her, and she was having aha moment after aha moment. Yes, this, I've felt this forever. Yes, this, I've got to be involved in. And as I was debriefing, and of course her parents were there too, and I could see just in the look on her dad's face that he was planning. He was charting. He was taking, and I stopped off and I said, what are you doing right now? So what are you thinking right now? And he says, oh, I'm thinking of that we've got to get scheduled. We've got to get her involvement organized. We've got to get her calendar in order, and we've got to make sure that she's got time allocated to these things that she wants to be involved with, so she could be, And I said, don't. Her involvement is creatively driven.
Mm.
You cannot cram creativity into a calendar.
Wow.
Don't try to structure that personality profile that is exactly the opposite of structure.
So in that situation, for example, you didn't have to give the father or the mother a personality walkthrough or information to understand them. You're trying to understand the young adult and then help the family understand what would benefit them most based on that result.
Right.
Is that correct?
And I've come down to two kind of selling points, if you will.
Right.
If I help a family just improve their communication between them and their teenager, that's a pretty good win.
Man.
But if that same family can prevent one changed major and 2 semesters that don't have to be repeated,
Life-changing money, guys.
and all of a sudden that little bit of time, that little bit of money that they spent with me saved them a great deal of money and time in their child's education.
And that is the reason what you do in this business is so important to every aspect of life, really. Because I know once I started understanding what you do and how you do it, my interaction with my team is better. And also, you take it home with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Your interaction with your family and your children. And you think children are carbon copies of you. They're not. Understanding that really dives into the rest of your life, but primarily your income is the most important. And for business owners, your bottom line,
right,
at the end of the day, is the most important. So you coming in and giving statistics as to how this will benefit a business would be invaluable to me as a business owner, would you say?
Absolutely. I mean, the one commodity that we all have the same amount of, regardless of our income, regardless of our business, is that we're all given 24 hours in a day.
Mm.
If you can utilize that time more effectively by improving communication, by eliminating those times when we had to circle back on understanding a given bullet point, then productivity is going to increase. And usually in most businesses, if productivity is better, efficiency is improved, the bottom line is going to improve as well.
It's a trickle effect.
It is.
And you're not coming in to tell them, hey, you're doing this wrong. Your demeanor is a no judgment zone.
Absolutely. Because, who am I to judge anyone's person, how God wired anybody?
Absolutely. And then what you do with the information and the coursework that you give to these teams is really, at the end of the day, a workshop setting, would you say? It
is. The follow-up stuff, after we debrief with the personality profile and everybody kind of understands who they are and how they're wired and how they need to flex to better interrelate in with their coworkers and in their organization, then we follow it up with a little bit more honing of the tools, such as like one of the books that I work with is John Maxwell's book called Everyone Communicates But Few Connect.
Interesting.
We can all communicate. We're communicating right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you walk away and something we discussed hits you at 3 o'clock this afternoon,
mm-hmm.
and it all of a sudden becomes something you're pondering on, then we went beyond communicating when we made a connection. Okay. So when we have that kind of level of communication in the workplace, then instructions and expected deliverables become a lot more clear and understood. Therefore, the execution of those deliverables is going to be much more efficient.
Wow. It's almost a proven process. I know that once I learned how to communicate with my boss, my life felt a lot happier at the end of the day, right? I mean, you can see it from all perspectives. In a small business or a startup especially, I truly believe you are the counter to AI. AI is very analytical. It's going to give you all of the information directly. You are the AI of personalities. You're helping people figure out how to communicate effectively to, in turn, increase their bottom line.
Exactly. And just like AI, what I help you to understand needs to be massaged. It needs to be reviewed, perfected into how you're going to utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every concept of AI that I have studied thus far, my study of AI is not that in depth yet, but
Mm-hmm.
is that don't just trust the output.
Mm.
Go and double check the output. Edit as you see fit to make it more precise, and please understand that AI can hallucinate. That AI makes stuff up sometimes. Mm-hmm. That has to be looked out for as you're reviewing. So the same thing with what I'm teaching. These are the fundamentals. You know, when I was growing up, I played baseball.
Right.
I can field a ground ball. I can throw the ball. I can hit the ball. Mm-hmm. But I can't do it as well as Corey Seager.
Right.
You know, okay. So we all started with the same fundamentals, but he was able to incorporate the fundamentals at a higher level than I was. The same thing happens here. These are communication and relationship management fundamentals. Each of us are going to be able to master it and put it into play at different levels. But anything that is beyond where I am today, gets better tomorrow, is going to be an improvement across the board for your personnel and ultimately for your organization. Absolutely,
because when you go for young adults, when you get into that career environment, and when you're a employee or a C-suite, when you get into that atmosphere, you're not always going to have your AI with you. You're not going to always have your AI to give you the answer. So you really have to lean on that relationship with your team, with your customer, with your client. And as AI progresses and people are starting to realize, oh, that's AI, that's not really you, that yearn for relationship and connection, it seems like it would grow more and more.
It all comes down to every one of us in our personal lives and our professional life will be thrust into a situation where we have to go back to fundamentals.
And so you coming into these businesses is teaching these teams, whether they stay with you, whether you stay the owner of this company or decide to start a new company, this is life-changing information for you.
It could be.
So you're really doing a service to yourself and everyone else on the team, would you say?
I hope so. That's the objective.
Wow. So to kind of wrap things up, we're focusing on small businesses and teams. You're focusing on the young adults going into college and helping those families. Are there any other key points that you'd like to dive into in the future or that you're doing now that maybe would have some interest to some of our listeners?
You know, just to kind of restate what we started at the outset, is that self-awareness is the first step towards self-improvement. And that is a mantra that can personally, spiritually, professionally, you know, at some point in time, you've got to take a good, honest, inward look to say, this is where I am right now. Because if you don't have that first data point, you really have no solid reference on how to measure improvement.
And at the end of the day, Dan, I feel like you're going to learn it either way. It's just going to take more time.
Right. And you're not going to be able to go back and actually measure or enjoy appreciate the quality of the growth if you cannot measure it.
Oh, that's a wonderful point to make, and a realization I hadn't thought about recently at all. Dan, can I ask you, how long, if I'm a business owner, would you say your course or your commitment to each business lasts? Is it a week, a month, 6 months?
Well, I can kind of customize it. Now, as far as completion of the coursework, we could do it in a weekend. You know,
really? So you're willing to go to these businesses and do team development on the weekends?
Of course. Or we could do it in half-day sessions or a bunch of, it's customizable because, again, each individual relationship is its own entity. So I can scale it to fit what best fits the organization's needs and the individuals within that organization and their needs. Okay,
so you're really customizable, which is how, it would be hard for you not to be in this in this business, right? So in that commitment to you, you're really going in as a consultation, and then you're gauging what they need. Are you giving these business owners a perspective of how long you'll be with them? Because I don't ever want you to leave our workplace. Networking events, you are invaluable to the people around you in any situation, it seems like. So how long do you commit yourselves, and about how long does it take for you to see an actual change in productivity?
That's a tough question. I'm not sure I could actually give just a quantified answer as a whole. In some cases, it may not be very long. We just deliver the profiles and we work on how to integrate them, and we go on from there.
Okay.
If we need further communication training, or if we need team effectiveness training, if we need any other kind of development on just leadership itself, then we can certainly do that. But hopefully through the interactive process of understanding each individual's personality and the improvement of the communication, decision-making, and just conveyance of information, then we can just sort of see from there as to what else is necessary.
Right. So you give everyone an option of they can take or leave with what the information they have, right?
Very a la carte.
I love that. You're doing a lot of networking events and a lot of speaking events as well. I'm assuming at those events you give key points and takeaways for business owners and young adults. Can you give us a couple of those takeaways maybe for our audience to hear? What could they do to make things more effective right now?
Well, I'm going to shamelessly steal some stuff here.
Go ahead.
John Maxwell says you have to know yourself to grow yourself. Okay. But at the same time, growth requires an investment, and you've got to invest in yourself, and you've got to focus, and see value in what you put in, as to what you're going to get out, or what you're going to put into the organization that the organization can receive as part of that input. And then secondly, just to realize that it's never ending. I love, because when I was growing up, I did not really enjoy reading as a hobby. I enjoyed movies and TV.
Right.
Consequently, in my training method, I often quote movies and television shows with things that I think are apropos.
Right.
In The Shawshank Redemption, Andy Dufresne has a line in there, and it says, "You got to get busy living or get busy dying." Okay? And what I take from that, not the finality of life,
right?
But if you get busy living, you have to understand it's a continuous process.
We all change.
We all change. We all grow. We all have experiences that change our filter on a certain aspect that we've looked at of life. You never get to a point. If you get to a point where you think you've made it, you don't need to put in any more, that's when, to borrow the phrase, you get busy dying.
Absolutely.
Okay, because lack of growth is the beginning of deterioration. Okay? So it's ongoing. So for an organization, if we did a personality profile and got everybody fired up, and it was actually integrated into process and evaluations and just the lifeblood, then perhaps we come back a year later and say, okay, how has it changed your values? Have the values of your organization changed because of this? Are the values incorporated into your business? Are you living out your values? If I found out that your values were a certain thing, later, would I be surprised by what I see you living? Okay. I heard a saying once that if someone who's known you forever later found out that you were a believer, would they be surprised? So what is my lifestyle, is my persona matching what I espouse my values to be? Organizations have values. They need to be operating in a way that those values come out in the way that they operate and they do business.
And maybe even just establishing values, because you can be in business for a long time and just have a routine and a method, right? And so maybe it's time. And I definitely think it's a day and age where we really need to step back and say, okay, who are we?
Who are we as an organization?
And you're really going to help these businesses and these young adults figure that out. You're giving them an edge that we never had.
Yeah, to own their values, own who they are, because they understand just exactly, how they respond to life from a personality standpoint. Helps establish their values, and that gives you a guideline by which to behave. Same thing in business. I'm asked all the time, how do you manage a bad attitude? Well, first of all, you have to have an established standard by which you're measuring that attitude to label it as bad, because if you don't, then it's just your opinion. And I can't go into litigation and just litigate your opinion.
Absolutely.
I have to have a violation of an established standard.
I think we need to put that one on repeat to really understand it. Those are great takeaways, Dan. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the opportunity to take what you've learned in your career and really help people. At the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You're helping people and you're wanting to make everyone around you better.
That's the goal.
Thank you, Dan. And I cannot wait to see what you've done with our business in the next year.
Thanks, Dory.
To everyone out there who's listening, if this hit a nerve with you or rang a bell, if you're trying to grow in your business and you really want to optimize how you grow efficiently, give Dan a call or reach out to me directly and I'll connect you with him. Until next time, thank you for joining us.